What you are about to hear is the sound of a Ruger rifle firing. The terrorist Anders Behring Breivik fired 305 shots on the island Utøya. It's 10 years ago this year. 69 people were killed and further 66 were injured. The vast majority of them was teenagers. The youngest victim was only 14 years old. Many say that Norway lost its innocence that day, 22nd of July 2011. Norway, known as a peaceful country, had raised its own far-right monster. 32-year-old Breivik was on all news broadcasts around the world.
And more than 10,000 kilometers away in Nairobi, Kenya, on the 21st of September 2013, terrorists stormed a night market shopping mall, killing 71 people. This was not the first terror attack in Kenya, but it was happening right in the capital, at a place popular with Kenyans, tourists, and Westerners alike, all of whom were carrying mobile phones.
I was at work the Friday when the terror hit Norway. Rest of my colleagues had left for their weekend. I started reporting on our online newspaper. As I said, this was the first time that terror hit Norway, so I didn't have a journalist Bible how to write about terror. So I had to use my experience as a crime reporter for many years. That day, United Media in Norway agreed on one thing from the start. We should not give the terrorist the attention he wanted, and we should not print his name. We constantly called him what he was, a terrorist.
I was in the newsroom that Saturday afternoon, working on the day's edition, when plumes of smoke started emerging out of the Westgate Mall. And 3 minutes earlier, I had received a text message from my friend who works within the police force, informing me that Westgate had actually been attacked.
I started by calling two of my friends working in another newspaper. I knew both of them had kids on the summer camp. Both of them were very scared because they hadn't heard from their kids. Later, we learned that Morten's daughter, Rachel, she was alive. And then we learned that Skjalg's son, Tarjei, he was alive, but he was shot and was badly wounded in his knee.
I knew that rushed and panicky media coverage of the attack would advance the terrorists' agenda. So I quickly marshaled my colleagues into an impromptu editorial meeting specifically to decide on the story angles. But by that time of the day, social media platforms and international news channels had gone live with the story. I remember BBC, CNN, France 24, Reuters, and all the other agencies going live with the story, albeit with minimal details of it.
Today, Tarjei is deputy mayor of Troms and Finnmark County, where I live. He zoomed into the Reuters Institute during my fellowship, and he spoke about that day and what he experienced. One thing he told us was when he heard helicopters in the air over Utøya, he thought, oh, the police is coming. But in fact, it wasn't the police. It was the media filming the tragedy. Because the special police in Norway had big trouble coming to the island. They have trouble with their boat. They have to have civilians helping them getting to the island so they could arrest the terrorists. This scandal was widely reported in Norway.
In Kenya, in the middle of the confusion at Westgate, security forces swung into action. But by that time, the terrorists had already killed and injured several shoppers and workers at the mall. Private licensed gun holders arrived at the mall to back up the police in laying a counter ambush. And Abdul Haji was one of the few Kenyans who arrived there to provide his support. He had arrived at the mall to save his brother who was trapped inside. But the moment he set foot inside the mall, with its smell of death, he ended up saving many more people than he had anticipated.
It was very hard reporting on the Utøya. It was hard mentally. The small town Laksdal, where I'm from, we are only 3,000 people, but also we lost one of our young. Henrik Andre Pedersen died. He was only 27 years old. Those who survived Utøya are still struggling. Tarjei still has post-traumatic stress, and the leg is paining him every single day. But he wants to talk about what happened that day, be in the politics, and speak about the tragedy, to remember those who died, because it was future prime ministers, foreign ministers, mayors who died that day, Tarjei says.
Today, Abdul Haji is a member of the Kenyan parliament. He is a senator, and he continues campaigning for enhanced security surveillance in high-risk areas in Kenya, including Garissa County, where he comes from.
It has been many terror attacks around the world since the tragedy in Norway back in 2011. Norwegian media has reported that the terrorist behind Christchurch Mosque shooting in New Zealand thought Breivik was his hero, and he wanted to kill more than him.
Months after the Westgate terror attack, terrorists laid another ambush at Garissa University in Kenya, killing 70 students. This attack almost brought the world to its knees. But unlike the Westgate terror stories, the reporting on the university attack were more coordinated, more precise, and more accurate. I have reported these terror stories with a heavy heart, yet the professional commitment and the personal sacrifices that come with it have never been more important.
I want to make sure that we journalists report on these tragedies, but that we remember the names of those who dies. Their futures disappear. It is more important that we say the names of those who died than we say the name of those who killed them.
It is my conviction that as we report these terror stories, we should not glorify evil through publicity. There is a synergy between journalists' desire to tell the story and the terrorists' idea and push to advance their agenda through publicity. And I believe those who kill and maim should not bask in the glory of media fanfare. We must remember all those who have paid with their lives in the fight against terror. And more importantly, let journalistic ethics guide each and every story we tell of these terror attacks. Thank you.